Hey guys, welcome to Brass Bootcamp. So today I'm going to be going through a little video tutorial on the 3 grade 1 pieces that are in the Easy Winners book by Peter Lawrence. And I'm going to give you some top tips on how to practice and what other exercises you can use to supplement your practice when you're playing these pieces. So the first one in the book is the theme from a musical joke. And this piece is a really nice playful piece, musical joke, it's in the title. So what we're after is a nice lively style, and it needs to sound light and bouncy. The way we achieve that is with our tongue and articulation, so we're making sure each time we say ta, it's a nice bouncy sound. So if we're going ta ta ta, obviously that's not giving the nice feel, so we're going to go ta ta ta, nice and crisp and clear. So this little piece, it can look quite confusing because if you have a look at the third note, it's a quaver followed by a quaver rest. And as you all know, a half beat and a half beat is one beat. So the quaver and the quaver rests are essentially a crotchet, but a nice staccato short crotchet. So you could substitute all the quavers and followed by a quaver rest with a crotchet, which makes the rhythm look a lot easier visually. So this piece is in 2 halves. First half of the piece and the second half are exactly the same. So what you're after is, does the second half sound exactly the same as the first half of the piece? So you're after nice consistency throughout the whole piece. So I'll play the first little phrase and then I'll explain what I'm thinking about and how you can get the best out of this piece. Okay, so I was thinking about crisp tonguing, not a perfect rendition, made a few little mistakes, but again, that's why we practice. So if I play that again, one of the notes at the start, I didn't quite articulate perfectly. So I'm going to play that again, and I'm going to make sure every time I say t, it's exactly the same. Cool, so that was much better on my part. All the tonguing was exactly right that time. All nice and crisp, all in the right place. The thing you'll obviously have noticed in my playing, that the dynamic contrast is another big thing this piece is testing you out on. So not only is it testing your tonguing, how well you can say t, making it nice and crisp, it's also testing you on your dynamic contrast. So the beginning, it's got P, piano marking, which means quietly, and then on the second line, it goes to forte, or the F marking, which means loud. So you've got to have that nice contrast between quiet and loud. So this time, I'm going to try and stretch those dynamics as much as I can to make the most contrast, therefore make it more interesting to the listener. Okay, so that time, much better. So I've practiced it 3 times, and the first time I made a little mistake on my tonguing, so the second time through I've made sure I fixed that, and then the third time through I made sure the dynamics are as stretched and as contrasting as possible. So that's it, the first piece, nice and easy. So this piece is testing your tonguing and articulation and your dynamic contrast. The second piece on the grade 1 syllabus in Easy Winners is One Hand, One Heart. And this one is a completely different piece. It's in 3/4 time signature, which means you count to 3 every single bar, and it says with feeling. So that means we've got to play in a completely different style than we did in the previous piece. So instead of articulating the notes really crisply in a bouncy, light, fun style, we've got to play much smoother. So it's going to be something like ta 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 instead of ta ta ta. So it's going to be much more smooth and flowing. So one of the other things in this piece which you need to sort of get your head around straight away is there's a big repeated strain and there's a first and second time bar in this piece as well. So basically you play through the piece, the first 2 lines, and then when you get to the third line, there's the repeated mark, which means go back to the beginning. And then on the second time through, when you get to the first time bracket, you then need to skip to after the repeat and play the second time bar. So basically, the first time you play the repeat, you play the first time bracket, and the second time you play the second time bracket. A few other things in this piece. The phrasing is quite important. So if you have a look where all the ticks are, nice 4-bar phrases, and the idea is you play each phrase in one breath. So 4 bars, 3 beats per bar, so you need to be able to play for 12 beats in one breath. While I'm talking about breathing, if you have a look at the last note is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars long, plus an extra beat, so you need to be able to play for 16 beats in one breath, which is quite a challenge if you're working on grade 1 pieces. So some of those breathing exercises will help you with this piece. So I'll play you little bits of this piece, and I'm after really nice and smooth, and a really nice sort of relaxed sound. And at that point, I go back to the beginning and do the repeat. So, again, I was thinking, really nice sound, saying as softly as I can to make the piece flow nicely. So, a couple more things in this piece. If you have a look on the 3rd line halfway through, there's the high C to F, and the first time that happens it's forte, so nice and loud. And then the next 2 bars, it's the same music, but we need to get a nice echo effect. So, what I'll do this time, I'm going to play from bar 9 in the piece, but for the second time, and I'm going to go through the second time and make sure I'm playing that nice echo effect when I get there on the 3rd line. So this is bar 9. Okay, so that's the whole piece. I tried to get a nice contrast between the louds and the quiets, and then that last note from that E flat on the last line, nice big breath, and then again 16 beats. You've got to control your breathing, nice big breath. It's marked PP or pianissimo, which is very quiet, which is great, which has helped us out. If it was marked loud and we had to play for 16 beats whilst blowing loud, that would be really difficult. So thankfully, it's marked very quiet, which means we can control our breathing, and it really helps us play for that length of time. So the third piece for the grade 1 exam is All Night, All Day. Again, really cool piece this. It's in a jazz style, so which means all the quavers, instead of being evenly spaced, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, it's in a jazz style. So we change the way we count the quavers. Instead of 1 and 2 and, we play 1 2 1 2 So it's that nice jazzy sound. I always say Scooby-Dooby-Doo for jazzy quavers. 1 2 Scooby-Dooby-Doo. So it's nice and relaxed. The first quaver is slightly longer than the second one, but it's that swingy Scooby-Doo. 1 2 1 2. Nice easy rhythm. So this piece, there's only a few different bars of music because each bar is repeated, sometimes up to 4 times. So if you have a look at the first 4 bars of the piece, the first 4 bars of the first line and the first 4 bars of the second line are exactly the same, which is great. Which means we only have to practice it once, and we're getting sort of double for our money of our practice. The first 4 bars of the third line and the fourth line are both the same. And then if you have a look at the last half of the first line and the last half of the third line, they're the same. And then the last half of the second line and the last half of the fourth line are again exactly the same. So once you've practiced half this piece, you've actually practiced all the piece, which is great. So I'll play you each phrase, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking about playing it. So, here we go. This is the first phrase. Really easy. Just 4 notes. C, F, A, and F. Nice and easy. We're after a nice jazzy style, so we're saying T in a nice jazzy way, and we're blowing through our instrument to make sure our sound is nice and jazzy. The next phrase, again, nice jazzy quavers. So again, every time we articulate, ta 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 ta, making sure the last 2 notes are slurred. Moving on to the third phrase, which is the second half of the second line. Very similar to the previous one, making sure when we're playing our quavers, ta 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 ta, in a nice jazzy style. The last phrase is the third line, bar 17. Sounds like this. So that's it, we've practiced the whole piece. Now all we need to do is rearrange those 4 different phrases into different orders and do what it says on the music. So, last thing before I play you the piece is you need to watch out for the DC and the fine. So, if you have a look at the very end of the piece, it says DC al fine. That means go back to the beginning and then stop at the fine. So basically what you do is you play the whole piece through, you get to the end, you go immediately back to the beginning, and then you play the first 2 lines again and stop where it says fine at the end of the second line. So, here we go. So that's the whole piece. The only one thing which I'm going to mention is there are some dynamic contrasts in this piece, but they're not as prolific as they were in the other piece. So there's only mezzo forte, medium loud, and forte. Well, I did try to make a nice little contrast between the 2. So I hope that's helped you out and give you some pointers when you're practicing these pieces. If you've not already looked at my warm-up video, which I did previously, have a look at that. Make sure before you start any of these pieces, you've done a nice warm-up, including the 5 things I talked about in that video. So breathing, lip slurs, tonguing, intervals, and finger work. So if you've done all those 5 things to warm up, then you're completely set to start practicing these pieces and getting the most out of your practice session. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you soon.